thanks to the good of the good. For His kindness has been some love. For this land of compasses are free. Papua New Guinea.
Despite what happened, this part of Papua New Guinea offered the thousands who lived there life.
Papua New Guinea. We are independent, we are free. Papua New Guinea.
Homes along the beach with fishing at sea and the Sisano Lagoon, and fertile land inland to grow crops. The Catholic mission that pioneered here complemented government efforts to bring about education, social development, and spiritual well-being. These are some rare early pictures of the disaster zone taken by an amateur video camera person in 1994.
We sing all the day, we sing in the river, we sing all the day, we sing in the river.
All that disappeared under huge waves of death and destruction on the evening of July 17th, 1998. Tsunami waves as high as power posts slammed into the coastline. Running several hundred meters inland, the waves leveled out villages. And since it happened in the evening when people were at home, the death toll surpassed other known casualties from natural disasters. Over 2,200. That figure remains the highest.
Name please.
Yeah. Thousands more had been injured, many requiring lengthy periods in hospital. Many more suffered permanent disabilities. Papua New Guinea was unprepared for a disaster of such magnitude. The destruction, injuries, and deaths couldn't be avoided. The country's lack of preparedness, even to pick up after the fact, had been sadly confirmed. Churches played a crucial role in the initial rescue operations. The Catholics, Anglicans, Lutherans, United Church, Red Cross, the Salvos, the Evangelical Alliance, and many more played a role. This man, local Catholic priest Father Austin Crabb, who has been made a bishop recently, became the world's Aitape contact.
Well, I think this disaster along the north coast of Aitape district is on the same scale as the Mount Lamington eruption down in Popondetta in 1950.
His accounts of the severity and magnitude of the disaster led to relief assistance from abroad. On the ground, the rescue and the temporary relief of the displaced resembled something of a war zone. The Octedi Mining Limited, Porgera Gold, the National Disaster and Emergency Services were heavily involved. They were assisted by the Defense Forces of Papua New Guinea and Australia, also providing field medical services. The emergency, the high level of medical service at Raihu in Aitape was comparable to any busy city hospital. Many of the critically injured were sent to Vanimo, where the army doctors took control. Wewak became another referral hospital. The tireless efforts of medical personnel, groups, organizations, and the local community of Aitape saved dozens of lives. The tsunami waves underlined Papua New Guinea's vulnerability to natural disasters. But more importantly, Aitape brought out our lack of preparedness in rescue operations and aftercare, particularly medically, trauma and rehabilitation. By next month, it will be exactly 12 months since the tsunami hit the coastline of Aitape. As the resettlement of the displaced continue, experts are still working on what really happened on the evening of July 17, 1998. There are two most likely causes, as explained by Professor Hugh Davis of the Geology Department of the University of Papua New Guinea.
The cause of this particular tsunami, we still do not know. We are confident it was triggered by the earthquake. But was it triggered by the earthquake alone, meaning that there was some movement of the seafloor which then caused the water to rise, which then caused it to bounce out towards the coast and towards Manus? Or was it a shaking that caused a landslide on the seafloor that displaced the water column and again caused the water to rise and then to move out? Or was it possibly a gas explosion? There are some lines of evidence that suggest the shaking might in turn have triggered the explosive release of gas, and that's thought to be a possible mechanism to cause a tsunami.
As we try to work out what happened, we are vulnerable to what's ahead. All coastal communities of Papua New Guinea are at risk from tsunami waves. It is greatest where there are volcanoes and earthquakes. Such are the areas of the New Guinea Islands, Bougainville, and the north coast of the mainland. There are no textbook precautionary measures to be taken in tsunamis. Common sense is required more than anything else.
The issue of warning is a tough one. We know that all of the damaging tsunamis that we know of in PNG's history were generated in PNG waters. They weren't generated by major earthquakes in Alaska or South America. They were generated locally, which means that if it's a local earthquake, you might only have 10, 20 or 30 minutes between the earthquake and the arrival of the wave. So we would need a very sophisticated monitoring system, and we would need a very effective communication system, neither of which we have at present. We can't predict the earthquake. We don't yet have the ability to predict earthquakes. So at present it's unrealistic to say that we or government or anyone can warn people ahead of a tsunami. So that the other tack that we're taking is to inform people so that they can make the judgment. Much as people did in Rabaul, they made the judgment to evacuate when they saw the warning signs. People on the coast, when they see the warning signs of a tsunami, will know to move out.
Aitape was one of many tsunamis to strike the coasts of Papua New Guinea. There are recorded deaths and destruction on the right coast of Madang in the mid-1950s, New Britain and Siasi Islands in 1888, the Buna Coast in Oro in 1895, Gasmata in West New Britain in 1906, and Bogea and Ninigo Islands in Madang in the 1930s. More recently and closer to home, tsunamis have taken lives in southeastern Java as recent as 1994 and at Biak Island in Irian Jaya in 1996. Tsunamis are caused by movement of the seafloor. This can be the uplift of part of the seafloor by movement on a fault, a submarine volcanic eruption, or the collapse or landsliding of a submarine slope. when the sea floor moves, the entire water column is displaced and waves are formed. In deep water, the waves are long in length and low altitude and travel with the speed of a jet plane. Because the waves in deep water are so small, they do not affect shipping and will pass beneath a canoe unnoticed. However, when the waves reach shallow water, they slow down. The wavelength is shortened and becomes higher. If the waves flow across a shallow shoreline, they may crest and break, as was the case at Tsunami. If the waves approach a deep, steep shoreline, they may appear simply as an unusually extreme rising and falling of the tide.
When you look at our coastline, many people live only a metre above sea level. Any of those areas, we should be putting in drills that are mock evacuation